Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films, Week 18, the last week of the season. Hat and T-shirt revenge game for the Ravens if they win at home against the Cleveland Browns, who, as you see on the bottom of the screen, are 3-13 this year. They will win the AFC North. They will have come back from a 2-game deficit not so long ago after winning 3 games in 11 days, put themselves in a position this Sunday. Congrats to anybody going to the game this Sunday who will have a chance to witness the hats and the T-shirts and the on-field celebration for the Baltimore Ravens if they can beat the Cleveland Browns for the first time this season after losing the first matchup. Appreciate anyone for who is joining me tonight. As you see, flying solo. So I appreciate all the support. Going to go over this game. And, to be honest, this Browns team, tough one to scout this time of year. Tough watch against the Miami Dolphins. They've scored 9 points combined in their last 2 weeks with Dorian Thompson-Robinson as the quarterback. A slew of injuries. 18 players I counted are on the IR, including some of their starters. Some of their better players are on IR. Myles Garrett still there for them, even though he's not practicing this week. Reading through the tea leaves and watching Coach Kevin Stefanski's press conference, you get the feeling that Garrett is going to play. But still a beat-up team. Denzel Ward is questionable going into this game. And a demoralized team who may start or may play both quarterbacks this week, non-committal to that. So we'll get into that, but we're going to cover a lot of what the Ravens have done in this game. This matchup is there for the picking for the Ravens on both sides of the ball. So let's just take a look at some of the graphics put up for tonight. This one, amazing. 3 wins, 3-0 in 11 days. Just a tremendous accomplishment for any team, especially when you're talking about games against 2 playoff teams in that stretch, your division rival at home, and then going to Houston, the AFC South champions, 3-4 days rest, and just demolishing them 31-2 in their own home. But over those 3 games, you see the Ravens averaged 33.3 points a game. The opponents scored 11 points a game, so they outscored their opponents 100-33 in an 11-day stretch. Point differential of plus 67. And nice note there at the bottom, Tucker, 3 for 3 field goals. And the one that stood out to me the most was the field goal against Pittsburgh at home, end of the first half, under 2 minutes left. It was a 51-yarder. Do you go for it on 4th down, or do you trust Tucker? If the game was still in the balance, if Tucker misses, Pittsburgh has a chance to score on the short field at the end of the half. Run Tucker out there. He drills it. You could hear Coach Harbaugh on Hard Knocks saying he's back. So what a lift it would be to the Baltimore Ravens to have Tucker, continue his all-time success going in here to the playoffs, say 3 for 3 in those 11-day stretch. The Ravens still the number 1 red zone team in the league, by the way, scoring on about 3 out of every 4 times they enter the red zone. They're coming out with a touchdown. But just an impressive 11-day stretch for the Ravens. And you see they're facing a Browns team. They won early on the road at Jacksonville. They beat, of course, the Baltimore Ravens in a heartbreaking game. The Ravens, if you remember, going into that game, had won 5 straight, started 0-2, were 5-2, going into Cleveland. Brand new starter. Jameis Winston was thrust into the starting role after Deshaun Watson was injured and booed in his home stadium after he got hurt. And the Ravens blew it. And instead of going to 6-2, they fell to 5-3. One of the worst days of the season, really, as a Ravens fan, just blowing that game. Kyle Hamilton had a chance to end it with an interception. And then the Browns came back, did the Ravens a solid on one of the more fun games to watch this year, that snow game on a Thursday night at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So they did the Ravens a solid there. And, that's part of the reason that the Ravens are in the position that they are right now. A win, and you're in here on Saturday at Baltimore. If I said Sunday earlier, I apologize. But yes, Saturday at 4 o'clock, 4:30. Big story of this Ravens season since Week 11. You can see the stats there. Week 11, not so coincidentally, was Ardarius Washington's first shot as a starter. He played 100% of the snaps that day, had 12 tackles. That was the Pittsburgh game. But you see the ranks, the NFL ranks since Week 11. This is not fluky. Their points per game allowed, yards a game allowed, sacks, second in sacks, despite not having a, necessarily a household name out there at the edge. It's not like we have our own Myles Garrett on the team. Kyle Van Noy having a career year, just seems to get better and better with his rush as he's being allowed to do it more and more in his Ravens career. Odafe 1 sack away from hitting 10 sacks. The passer rating allowed, so it's not just volume stats. We're holding passers down to a low passer rating as well. It's been a huge part of the Ravens' resurgence here later in this season. Defense coming together with Kyle Hamilton and Ardarius Washington on the back end. On the offensive side, they've been carrying the team all year. Just so consistent offensively. And you see where Lamar Jackson ranks in the all-time best passer rating in single season in NFL history. Right now, he is second behind Aaron Rodgers. You see the guys in yellow there, Aaron Rodgers twice and Peyton Manning. All three of those seasons resulted in MVP for Rodgers and Peyton Manning. Whether Lamar wins the MVP, who knows? I think he deserves it. Vegas says that Josh Allen is the odds-on favorite. You have to, it's a minus 300 for Josh Allen, so not very good odds for Lamar to make it if you go to Vegas, and Vegas is usually right. But what stands out among the passer rating is an accumulative stat. So they're taking the touchdowns and, pass by pass, everything into consideration. But Lamar also has 852 yards rushing. So it's not just what he's doing with his arm, what he's doing with his leg. So, he's an Aaron Rodgers MVP season type long arm, Peyton Manning type season with his arm. And then he's the leading quarterback rusher, 852 yards on the ground. It's not hyperbole to say this is one of the greatest single seasons in quarterback history. Be a shame if Lamar didn't win the award. He doesn't seem to care about it too much, at least towards the media. He has one goal in mind. But yeah, what an excellent season. And I think sometimes as Ravens fans, we take it for granted. I mean, Lamar makes plays that are outstanding. That to us is just another Lamar play. Just casual. Sometimes he escapes a sack and, is able to get out of the pocket and just throw the ball away. Survive for another down. Plays that other quarterbacks flat out can't make. Lamar does them, whether they count in the stat sheet or not. And I mentioned this on Twitter the other day. I don't even hold it against defensive coordinators whose plan is to keep Lamar in the pocket. Because when he gets out of the pocket, and the numbers show this, he is absolutely deadly. It's almost unfair. It's a no-win battle. The big plays he creates with his arm when he's flushed out of the pocket, we've seen it all year. Big plays downfield to Bateman, downfield to Flowers, broken plays to Isaiah Likely. It's really a no-win situation if Lamar rolls out, especially if he rolls right. It's almost gotten to the point where defensive coordinators, when that happens, probably hopes that Lamar scampers for 5 or 10 yards and they just live another day. So in the pocket, out of the pocket, any kind of passing situation. And then, of course, he's Lamar Jackson when it comes to carrying the ball, the scrambles, and the design runs. One of the greatest seasons that we've seen from a player. Definitely the best offensive season we've seen from Lamar Jackson or any other Raven in Ravens history. Some milestones. Our buddy Yuri tweeted this, and I thought that it was interesting. See Tanja pop in. Want to say hi to Tanja before I forget. Hey, appreciate you checking in. You see flying solo, Tanja. So any comments or talking points that you want, go ahead and add them. I could use the extra material for tonight. Got plenty to cover still. But I like this tweet from Yuri Tanja because he's basically laying out what's on the line individually. Obviously, the goal this week is number one, win this game. Number two, come out healthy. Shoot, there's an argument that number one should be come out healthy because we're in the playoffs already. But take a look at some of the milestones. So Lamar needs 55 passing yards for 4,000. That's obviously barring something catastrophic. That's going to happen. He also needs 48 rushing yards for 900. So if something happens and Lamar breaks a long run and he can't find anybody downfield, or maybe it's a quarterback design run, outside shot that Lamar can rush for 1,000 yards. If he put up 4K, 1K, 40 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, just a historic, mind-boggling season. Never thought that we'd see this from a quarterback. Studied the game for a long time, and what Lamar's doing is beyond anything you could imagine, especially 10, 15 years ago when quarterbacks didn't run like that. Lamar also only needs 40 or one passing touchdown for 40. Bateman, 20 yards away from 700. And if Bateman scores 2 touchdowns this year, it will be a 10 touchdown year for Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman's so proud of him, staying healthy, and now he's becoming a legitimate threat in the red zone. You can see that. Zay Flowers is dynamic. You can use Zay in a bunch of ways. We see Zay win short. We see him win intermediate. We see Zay catch the deep ball. Beautiful play in Houston and beautiful play in Pittsburgh. You saw on deep balls to Zay. But Bateman, with a little bit more size in the red zone, you see him running these more intricate routes, little post corner action, little drag action. Just very, very subtle from Bateman. And so proud of him to have the season that he's having. But yeah, he's 20 yards away from 700 and 2 touchdowns away from 10 touchdowns on the year. Likely he needs 61 yards for 500 receiving yards. Think about that. Your number 2 tight end, 500 yards is in his grasp. Oweh, mentioned a little bit ago, needs 1 sack for a 10-sack season. That would be quite an accomplishment for a guy that a lot of Ravens fans wrote off as a bust. And I do think as fans, we especially are quick to put that bust label on. And I don't think that Oweh was ever a bust, in my opinion. I think that, he was picked, I think, 31st overall. It's okay. So he's a first-round pick. We expect him to produce. Well, he was always going to be a project. He had 0 sacks in his last season of college. He's a height, weight, size type guy, prospect coming out. He wasn't drafted because of college production. He was drafted because he was an excellent athlete and, of course, his work ethic and everything they saw there. But I think, if he was drafted 5 spots later, say, and all of a sudden he's a second-round pick, I think people would have looked at Odafe Oweh differently over the years and said, I think it's that first-round pick label, and there's really a big talent difference between who's drafted 31st overall and then, say, somebody who's like the first position player taken off the board. Say all that to say, Odafe Oweh, excellent season. So proud of him. He is under contract next year under the franchise tag. And then, hey, long shot that Yuri does not see happening. Would not rule it out, though. Derrick Henry needs 217 yards to hit 2,000. And we've seen games like this in Ravens history where the back goes over 200 yards. What do you need in there? You need a big run, usually early, like we saw in the Jamal Lewis days against these Cleveland Browns, by the way, where you hit one for 70-some early in the first quarter. And then you take away that, all of a sudden, you just need a 150-yard game or something like that. So let's take a look at some of the milestones that the Ravens could reach. Mr. James in the house with the wow. I'm not sure what you're wowing at, Mr. James. Probably Lamar's stats. Just ridiculous. I mean, Mr. James, we're seeing that, what he's doing with his arm and where it ranks all time. And then he's still Lamar Jackson with his legs. It just blows me away. Don C checking in. Happy New Year, brother. Thanks for saying that, Don. Happy New Year to everybody out there. 2025 already coming at you here on New Year's Day. So I really, really, really appreciate all the support we've gotten all year. Can't wait for this playoff run, guys. If you've tuned in pretty consistently, you know that I've never been really, really down on the team. The thing I was most down on was the offensive line. And they've turned it around and performed better than I thought they could. But I always thought the defense would kind of come around. We just needed to make personnel changes. Eddie Jackson and who knows what's going on with Marcus Williams. But we just started playing better and moved our best player on defense, Kyle Hamilton, to where we needed him most. And, my philosophy overall is whenever you got Lamar Jackson, you got a chance. So, people write the Ravens off, and they're a completely different team now than they were in October, just like every other team. So, just keep that in mind for future years. If the team looks great in October, it doesn't mean anything. If they look horrible in October, it doesn't mean anything. You just want to see those flashes of brilliance out of your team, some flashes of dominance, and for them to keep improving and to stay healthy, which has been a big key to this Ravens season. Yeah, Mr. James, the whole list is amazing. It really is. It puts in perspective. Guys that have been doubted, Mr. James, Bateman and Oweh. I mean, both of them were drafted in 2021. So this was their last year, where decisions had to be made in the offseason. Bateman, of course, was extended for 2 years. They put the 5th-year tag on Oweh. a lot of pressure on those two guys. To see him come through was really beautiful. And Don C, thanks so much for the donation. Happy New Year again. Need to get up at 1 a.m. for a 3 a.m. start. So I'm in the most heterosexual way. I'm going to bed with you. Have a great stream, Jason. I appreciate that. Hey, there's no problem with whatever your orientation is there, Don. So you didn't have to clarify, brother. I know where you're coming from. But yeah, no, I appreciate you so much, and thanks for the $5 donation. That's funny, man. And Mr. James saying, yeah, KVN isn't even on the list with his 11.5 sacks. So true. The veteran leadership there too, Mr. James, from KVN, I think has been just huge. Van Noy, big part of steadying this team and really, kind of lessen the loss of Clowney. And you can just see with Jadeveon Clowney, I don't think he's, I haven't studied him, but I doubt Jadeveon Clowney is any worse of a player than he was last year. But when you're in Baltimore and you got guys like Matabike, Travis Jones, Pierce pushing the pocket, quarterbacks don't have anywhere to step up. It really allows for career years for guys, or better, gives the other guys a better chance of cashing in on those sacks. Team effort. The Ravens are second in the league in sacks, and I don't think a lot of people would have expected that going into the season. You look at their depth even right now. It's Kyle Van Noy, Dafio Way, Tavius Robinson. Then you have Ojabo and Adisa Isaac chipping in here and there, but not a ton of depth, not household names, and still the Ravens are second in the league in sacks. Want to have to go back to this first game. Now, a lot has changed. This game was before Halloween. And as we mentioned, that was when Jameis Winston took over for Deshaun Watson. Watson was hurt the week before. They booed the man while he was laying there in pain in their own stadium. The Browns players were not happy about that. They let the media know that they backed Deshaun Watson. They know everybody knows what happened off the field with Deshaun, but the players weren't happy that he was booed. Part of that was because Watson wasn't playing well. Let's face it. If he was, making Pro Bowls and leading the Browns to wins, they wouldn't have been cheering that he was injured. But the frustration got them. And we were walking into a situation like that, having won 5 games in a row, started 0-2. Now we're 5-2. And we come into Cleveland, and this is the game we put up. Man, it was just a tough loss to take. But you see, Lamar played well, 101 passer rating, not one of his best games of the season. Of course, he's having a historic season, but still pretty clean game, no picks. Winston was on fire. And that game, if you guys remember, that was the game where Eddie Jackson had a really rough go of it. You look at those 2 touchdowns for Cedric Tillman. The last one, if you remember, Eddie Jackson was flat-footed and Tillman ran right by him for the game-winning score. But wanted to put this graphic up anyway, just to show where the targets went and how the Ravens did. I think what you see on the Brown side is mostly non-applicable this week. Winston won't be there. Bradley Chubb won't be there. So you got a new quarterback. The running back room has been decimated. But look on the Ravens side, Derrick Henry, only 11 attempts in that game. And that's when fans were starting to really question, have the Ravens learned their lesson? Are they going to use the big back, as Mike Tomlin calls him, Derrick Henry? Only 11 attempts in that loss. And he averaged 6.6 yards per carry. So it wasn't like they were stuffing him. Zay Flowers, a big day that day. 12 targets, 7 receptions for 115 yards. And the guy I'm looking to bounce back on this game is Rashad Bateman. He is not on that list, but he only had 1 catch in that game and 5 targets. He had a rough time with the Browns corner. So I'm looking for Bateman to come back this game and to show the Browns up. Maybe he gets to that 10 touchdown mark. Our guy, Simply AS10, happy freaking New Year to you too, brother. Really appreciate you. Got to get you back on soon. Had Sutton on for the little bye week thing that we did. Maybe we can get Simply back on for this playoff preview that we're going to do next week. That would be great. But happy New Year to you, man. Thanks for all your support and your friendship over the years doing this YouTube thing. It's definitely a little intimidating at times, so it helps to have people like Simply and Engraven and others that I can really reach out to. So let's get to it. Offensive side of the ball. Again, the Ravens are just so favored in this matchup. There's not a lot to really pick at. You see they're the third ranked scoring team. Yards per game, they've been first all year. Passing yards a game, they fell to sixth. Been some great passing performances around the league. Still first in yards per pass attempt. So Lamar is the most efficient quarterback in the NFL. And of course, the rush yards, first in yards per carry, number one team in the red zone. The Browns have been going the other way. A lot of injuries. And you can see on that list right here, we have the Red Cross next to their middle linebacker, Jordan Hicks. They're one of their best players, former fourth overall pick, Denzel Ward. Neither one of those guys has practiced this week. The Browns injury report is a long one, a laundry list. So, I mean, when I put it on the screen, it didn't even really look right. It was kind of small. So I just decided to put the cross marks next to the guys who haven't practiced. Myles Garrett has not practiced this week. But again, I listened to Coach Kevin Stefanski's press conference, and it sounds like Myles is going to go in this game. Sounds like he's just going to get some rest with the short week coming up. So he should be good to go, and a pain in the Ravens' neck as he usually is. So I had Bateman highlighted, mentioned it just a little while ago. Did not really have an impact on that first Browns game. And Martin Emerson, the guy lined up across from him most of the time, is an excellent, big, strong, long press corner, one of their better players. So I have Bateman highlighted in this situation because I want to see him come through. I want to see Bateman put his route running to use. I want to see this, like the chemistry between him and Lamar is as good as it's always been, or as it's ever been, rather. I want to see if they've made some progress since the last game to where they can get a little bit more out of Bateman and not have to target Zay Flowers 12 times to move the ball. Not that that's a problem. If that's what the Browns are giving to us, by all means, take it. But I'm going to keep an eye on Bateman this game, see if he can have a big game, see if he can have one of his bigger games and hit that 10 touchdown mark. Isaiah Likely, steady all year. Mark Andrews continues to score touchdowns for this team. The tight end combination has been really, really effective for the Ravens. It's pretty much what we imagined at the beginning of the season. I know a lot of people were concerned that maybe we would go too heavy, too much Andrews, too much Likely, too much Ricard, not enough wide receiver action, not explosive enough, but that has not been the case, as you can see by the Ravens numbers down at the bottom. Could Henry have that big 200-plus yard game to get to 2,000? What kind of percentage would you put on that? Let me go back and see exactly how many he needs again. He needs 217 for 2,000. What percentage chance do you give Henry of getting 217 yards in this game? I would put it at 217 is really hard. I would put it at 15%. He said, I think he needs some luck in there. But keep in mind, it's going to be cold. It is going to be cold in Baltimore this weekend. The wind could be acting up. And again, this Browns team is so beat up at 3-13. I'm sure these guys, there's going to be a little bit of self-preservation that just kind of, not saying that any one guy is going to quit or not play hard, but when you're filtering in and out 15 guys on defense, it's hard to have all of them mentally and physically engaged and ready to sacrifice like an aggressive defense would. So could Henry wear this group down and make people not want to tackle him? And, we've seen, with this team, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is on IR. How did he get on IR? Anybody remember? It was by trying to tackle Derrick Henry, and he just got a Derrick Henry shoulder, and it turned into a scary situation, not trying to make light of it. He was, I believe, stretchered off and put on IR. So hopefully JOK will be okay. But still, the Browns players saw that, and they have nothing to play for other than putting out good tape. And obviously they want to be picked up and make money in the future. But you do wonder if Derrick Henry could bust off a big run, wear these guys down late. And I think a lot of that will have to do with the score. If the Ravens are up 30-0 in this game and they're 18-point favorites last time I looked, you're not going to keep giving Derrick Henry the ball to try to get him to 2,000. Maybe Harbaugh does it, but yeah, I wouldn't do it. The playoffs are what's most important. That's what we've been working for. So if the Browns don't put up a fight, maybe the odds of Henry getting over 200 yards and hitting that 2,000 mark, shrinks a little bit. Steve checking in. Thank you, Steve-O. Henry getting 217, he puts it at 20%. Simply saying 5 to 10%. We blow them out. Starters sit in the fourth. And he will be there braving the cold. How brave of you, bro. Hey, simply, good point. That's the one that just occurred to me, is that if we're blowing him out, no reason to keep feeding Henry. Get some. I hope you end up staying, toughen it out, and find your way down to like the front row. Maybe you get some memorabilia from the guys. Get some pictures, some video you can put on your channel. Simply AS10. Y'all don't know him? Go subscribe to his channel. It's awesome. But get some video and some pictures and share it with the flock. Mr. James putting it at 30%, a little more optimistic. I could see it, Mr. James. I could see him busting a long one early and then like having it. Okay, well, Derrick Henry's 50 yards away. Should we try to get it to him? Yeah, so maybe he does. And John Parsons, appreciate you, John. Great seeing you. Saquon's at 2005, and he will be sitting this week against the Giants. Good point. Philadelphia taking the safe route, and that's good for them because when I look at Philly in the NFC, I would say to me they were the best team we'd seen all year, and with as beat up as the Lions are, I kind of like Philly's odds to get to the Super Bowl. They get a little streaky with the passing game. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is up and down a little bit as a quarterback. Sometimes he looks great. Sometimes he looks okay and good enough to win. And other times it's just a struggle for them to throw the ball. But, compared to Detroit, I like Philly. Minnesota is the team that surprised many of us all year. So it'd be interesting to see how that race goes in the NFC. Steve checking in. Saturday is like summertime compared to that Houston playoff game last season. Really? Okay. See, I wasn't there. I didn't go. So I'll trust you on that. But yeah, the guys got a break last week in Houston playing down there and, enclosed environment. So that was probably nice for them because it was cold around here last week too, rainy, all kinds of stuff. Not the greatest weather in Baltimore these days. So anything stand out to you from a matchup perspective? For me, to be honest, the studying this week, where do we got the advantage? Where do they have the advantage? There's just really not a lot to that. Kind of a boring matchup, to be honest. Not spending as much time on this as I normally do because, they have Myles Garrett. Emerson, of course, is a good player. Ward's a good player. Delpit's okay. But, really just have been a non-competitive bunch. I think this could be a good game for not only Derrick Henry, but any other running backs that we get involved because I look at their defensive tackles. Dalvin Tomlinson's been beat up. Mike Hall is a rookie. He's a pass rusher. Very good at getting after the quarterback, Mike Hall. Not known as a run defender. And, of course, being a rookie, he's still got to add some strength and add to his body composition. You can see at the top their depth, Kamara, Briggs, not guys that you know. So as far as, the interior of their rush, McGuire at the edge, another, I think a second-round player, but another young player known for his pass rushing, not for his run stuffing. Running back or linebackers unknown. So this is like that the entire front for the Cleveland Browns. It's just waiting to be had in the run game. So you're talking about Henry. You're talking about guys like Keaton Mitchell or Rasheen Ali. All of those guys could have a big day. And the Ravens could just want to shorten this game, run the ball downhill, keep the clock rolling, not put Lamar in danger with, Myles Garrett chasing him and, ball hawks like Denzel Ward and Emerson out there and just run the ball all day. If I had to guess, this is going to be one of those games in which the Ravens have more rushing yards than passing yards. Ravens could have 250 rushing yards in this game easy. And maybe Lamar only attempts, 20, 25 passes. If the Cleveland offense is been like they have been, which is the last 2 weeks, they've scored a total of 9 points with Dorian Thompson-Robinson as the quarterback. My buddy Cosmo checking in. Happy New Year to you. Right back at you, Cosmo. Have to get together soon and check it out. And Parsons back in the house. Yeah, Ravens-Eagles Super Bowl would be fire. They would be the ones that would make me nervous, John. I would love to have those problems, though. Let's get there. If we're in the Super Bowl, step one accomplished. But, man, that Philly team was really physical and really impressive that day that we played them. Not that we played our best game. We did not. But very impressive group there with Zach Baun, the linebacker, the corners that they have, and that just vicious, big old front four that they love. Just, we're there, man. We're at that. 'Tis the season. as the old saying goes. A couple of injury notes for the Ravens that I wanted to touch on. Justice Hill still not practicing. They have illness and concussion next to his name. I'm just hoping that he's okay from that concussion because we saw that shot that he took basically landed on his head near the sideline in the Pittsburgh game, and the players were calling the trainers over right away. And whenever you see the players calling the trainers over right away, it makes your heart sink. It's like they know something's wrong. Maybe they looked in Justice Hill's eyes and didn't like what they saw. Just a scary concussion for Justice Hill, and he's a very important piece to this offense. The third down back, the hurry up back. We've seen him catch touchdowns after out of the backfield. We've seen him converted big third downs out of the backfield. You take a sack and you need to get some safe yards back. The dump off to Justice Hill has been really good to get that 5 to 10 yards to get you back in third and manageable. Just an important player for this team. So I hope Justice Hill is okay from a concussion standpoint. I know there's a nasty stomach illness going around Baltimore. I'm wondering if that's what the team has. If any of y'all out there have seen that or have friends. But yeah, I know some people that just a nasty stomach bug going around. And we've seen the Ravens come down with it. Ronnie Stanley came down with it. He has returned to practice. Patrick McCary still not practicing with the stomach bug. So maybe we see Andrew Voorhees play. I would say Ben Cleveland, but I doubt he's going to see the field and unless he's an emergency other than being the sixth lineman. But yeah, I hope those guys are okay. Also returning this week to practice, Charlie Kolar. Interesting note, if you guys saw Monken's press conference today, one of the reporters asked him about, hey, since the bye week, you guys have been running more out of the pistol and running more out of the shotgun and a little bit less under center. And why is that? Was it self-scouting? Was it this? Was it that? And Monken, he's been candid. He basically said, yeah, it was some self-scouting. Part of it is opponent-based. How do we want to attack the opponent? And then the third component of that was that Charlie Kolar has been out, and he is our blocking tight end. So I thought that was a big shout-out to Yuri's guy, Charlie Kolar, that, basically we stopped going under center as much when Kolar got hurt. And we just figured that it was best to run it out of sidecar. It was best to run some pistol. And Derrick Henry, to his credit, has really, done a good job. People question whether he needed to run out of the I formation or run with Lamar under center. And, Derrick Henry doesn't have a lot of experience running out of the shotgun, the pistol. And Henry has showed you that complete back between the tackles, outside the tackles, that he can do it all. But thought that was a great comment from Monken, just explaining the importance of Charlie Kolar. So I thought that was awesome. Rasheen Ali started the game basically for Justice Hill. Obviously, Henry started, but came in for Justice Hill and was injured. He's back already. Didn't miss any practice time. Of course, we had a long layoff, a longer recovery time playing on Christmas on that Wednesday and not having to practice until Monday. So Ali came in, went right back out, and then it was all Keaton Mitchell backing up Henry from there. And Keaton Mitchell got his touches. Showed some nice explosion on a screen pass his way. So I'm interested to see if guys like, Devontae Walker, who's not on this list, Aguilar has missed a couple of times. Can he get back involved? Tylan Wallace, if the Ravens build the lead that they are capable of and quite frankly should build a lead, who gets involved in the offense? I would love to see them mix it up. Heather in the house. Thank you, Heather. Great to see you. Happy New Year's. Right back at you. It's great to see you. Just really appreciate you joining the show again this week. But yeah, Myles Garrett, by the way, it's his fourth straight year with 14 or more sacks. That's an NFL record. Credit to Myles Garrett. And I wonder how much longer he's going to be a Cleveland Brown, because there was reports out and he basically said that he wants to talk to management and know what the Browns' plans are, that he doesn't want to be part of another rebuild in Cleveland. If Myles Garrett became a free agent or requested a trade or whatever his status is out of there, he would be one of the more coveted players to be on the market in quite some time. I guess Tyreek Hill is the last one to come to mind, on the offensive side when Miami won that bidding war for Tyreek. But Myles Garrett, can you imagine adding a guy like that? Would love it for the Ravens fans, Oweh, Ajabo, or Oweh and Kyle Van Noy. Next year is their last years under contract. Can you imagine getting a Myles Garrett on this team? That would be something else. Just throwing it out there. Not sure if he'd like to become part of the rival, but that would be absolutely awesome. So let's flip it over to the other side, because this is where the fun and games begin for the Cleveland Browns. So much uncertainty. We'll put it up there. You see the Browns are last in scoring. They're averaging 15.5 points a game. They have dropped below the Giants after the Giants put up 40 points last week. Was at the Broncos game that they did that. So yeah, 32nd in yards per pass attempts. They're middle of the pack in running the ball, 4.2 yards per carry, only 50% in the red zone. So this offense has declined big time. They got the little Jameis Winston bump when Jameis came in. They got a nice little scoring bump there, but they've crashed back down to earth. So the most noticeable thing you see on the screen here is that at the quarterback position, will it be Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Will it be Bailey Zappi, cast off from the New England Patriots? The head coach, Kevin Stefanski, non-committal. I'm wondering if they just want to see Bailey Zappi in a game, and more importantly, if they still like Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and his physical skills are off the charts, but they may be doing him no good for his development by playing him. Like, the game seems to be moving that fast for him. He seems to be overwhelmed. He's doesn't have the best help around him, the running game. But I mean, you score 9 points in 2 games, 9 combined points in 2 games. Maybe you need to sit down and let Bailey Zappi handle it, and just regroup, come back next year mentally refreshed if you're Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So yeah, don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Stefanski said that he could clarify by the end of the week. So remember, with the game on Saturday, by Thursday, tomorrow, the final injury reports will come out. Guys will be declared out, questionable, that kind of thing. Maybe Stefanski comes back out and announces who his quarterback will be tomorrow. But the Ravens don't know. The big difference between the two is that Thompson-Robinson, DTR, just a tremendous athlete who can beat you with his legs. Bailey Zappi, he can move a little bit, but nothing compared to DTR. DTR has also got the bigger arm. Zappi, a little more accurate. So neither one of them are starting or were thought of as a starting quarterback going into this year for a reason. The Ravens have just got to keep their guard up and keep playing well. New quarterbacks, you don't know what they're gonna do, how the coach is going to cater the game plan towards them. But if we play our game, Hamilton and Washington lock down the back end like they have, the front four gets after it, and the quarterbacks do what they're supposed to do, then it shouldn't matter who the quarterback is. You play, and you can dictate as a defense to what they want to do. Jerome Ford, who took over for Nick Chubb as their starting running back, a nice player. 3 down type back. He can catch out the backfield too. A little bit of speed, a little bit of size. Can do it all. I like him as a player, but he is also not practicing this week. What was his ankle, I believe? Yeah. And their third running back, Pierre Strong, is in concussion protocol. So they've went through Chubb. They don't know if Jerome Ford's going to play for them. Pierre Strong still in concussion protocol. It's probably a long shot for him to play. That's their top 3 backs. So they actually brought in John Kelly, who, if you remember, John Kelly was in here taking the snaps for the Ravens in that last preseason game. We thought when Ali went down that maybe he would get a roster spot, because the Ravens at that point only had Derrick Henry and Justice Hill in the running back room. Keaton Mitchell obviously wasn't ready. Ali goes down in the preseason game. Josh Kelly was taking snaps for the Ravens. Turned out Ali was okay. Well, now John Kelly could be getting carries, probably will be getting carries for the Cleveland Browns this week. If Pierre Strong cannot clear protocol in time, I doubt that he will again. With the game being on Saturday, there's just not a lot of time. The Foreman for the Browns also played in that first game. We want to go back and see his numbers. Let's see if we can find it here. Come on, Jason. Okay, there it is. So yeah, Foreman 5 carries, 25 yards, 5.2 yards per carry in that first game. Foreman is a downhill runner, power back, not a lot of speed. So you can see Foreman getting his share of carries in this game, along with John Kelly, and we'll see if Ford plays. The big story for the Browns this year, the bright spot, Jerry Jeudy. You see at the bottom, he is sixth in the NFL. Breakout year for Jeudy, career year, 1,166 yards of receiving for Jerry Jeudy. So he is their key. Can they get him the ball? He's pretty good with the ball in his hands as well. Got some make you miss ability. Got some speed over the top. So if the Browns are going to want to be competitive and put up a lot of points in this game, they're going to have to get Jerry Jeudy involved. Noticed in the game against Miami last week that they moved him to the slot. And when we saw Jeudy before, he was where Michael Woods is on the screen as their left wide receiver, their X receiver. But I noticed they have Jeudy in motion. I think they wanted to move him around all over the place and just find ways to get him the ball, find the mismatch, which is probably a good idea if you're the Cleveland Browns. Mentioned Michael Woods, not much experience. He was a late round draft pick, was suspended, was cut, was a practice squad guy. He's back in there for the Browns. And then Elijah Moore, pretty good wide receiver over there. Interested to see the matchup with Moore on Wiggins. Expect to see a lot of that. Nate Wiggins quickly becoming one of my favorite players. I don't know about you guys, but Nate Wiggins has got that dog in him, as the saying goes, unafraid. And I just love him from off coverage. Like, I feel like if you wanted Wiggins to follow the number one receiver and have him come up and press and bump and run and do all that stuff, that he could do it and he'd be really good at it. Needs to add some weight, some play strength. And I think he gets a little grabby when he's in trail coverage. He has a tendency to grab when he doesn't have to. But Nate Wiggins in off coverage, you put him 5 yards off the receiver, let him sit back and backpedal, and keep his eyes forward. His eye balance between the receiver and the quarterback is ideal. He's got great instincts, and he trusts his speed. Like, he's waiting for that wide receiver to break, and he is going to jump on it and contest the pass. Whether that wide receiver breaks out, whether he breaks in, whether he breaks back to the quarterback, Nate Wiggins has a really good idea, intelligence, showing some intelligence, and then, of course, the physical ability to be quick in and out of his breaks and just, bam, be on that ball and contest it. And he's really not worried about you running past him because he knows if you do run past him and get a step, by the time that ball goes all the way downfield, he is going to catch up and have a chance to contest it. So I can't wait to see how Nate Wiggins grows. Physically, I want to see if he can pick up about 10 pounds. I think that he could do that without losing speed. But I'm really just impressed with his overall feel for the game and his attitude, talking smack to Malik Neighbors. He's just unafraid for a younger player. Came out as a junior, one of the younger players in the draft. Just a big Nate Wiggins fan. Mentioned earlier, Oweh highlighted. 1 sack, he gets the double digits. And he can rub that in a lot of Ravens fans and people like me, even though I've never really said that. I've been pretty steady on my Oweh take, but a lot of people calling him a bust. Not me. He can shove that in their faces. 1 more sack, 10 sacks on the gear for Oweh. Marlon Humphrey, great season. I believe he's 3rd in the NFL in interceptions. Just overall, you're seeing a lot of good years from players. Travis Jones, great to have Michael Pierce back. I'm still wondering what they're going to do with Tre'Davious White. Noticed this on film, but before Trey White was just coming in for Brandon Stevens, they were kind of, switching back series to series. But I did notice them put Trey White over on Wiggins' side a little bit just to see what he had over there. So it seems like they're experimenting with White, using him to get guys a little bit of a breather out there. Saw him in the slot, I believe, once or twice. But Trey White, veteran cornerback, the Ravens may need him on this Super Bowl run. So it's going to be important for him to keep engaged, keep playing well, keep in good shape. Michael Pierce, of course, a force on the inside, getting that big old sack not too long ago, slinging the quarterback to the ground. Russell Wilson, that was beautiful to see. And by the way, for those of you who tuned into the highlight little pack cut up I put together. Didn't get a lot of views on it, but it was basically the stunts, the twists and stunts that the Ravens ran and the blitzes that they called against the Houston Texans. You can see how good Justin Madubuike is on the front side of that. So he is basically picking off the left guard or right guard, picking the right tackle, taking the center with him, and allowing Van Noy to loop and stunt and just get home to the quarterback. I think the Ravens are really good with the games that they play up front. Saw a couple of times where Madubuike and Travis Jones were dogging it, crossing each other, trying to get some miscommunication and some angles on the offensive line. So the Ravens really messed around with their rush against the Texans. It almost looked like they were experimenting with that big lead that they had and seeing what they had. And also Malik Harrison just absolutely punishing running backs when he blitzes. Didn't get home, allowed to scramble to CJ Stroud, but my goodness, when Malik Harrison comes, check out that video if you don't believe me. There's two of his blitzes were towards the end of that short video, and he is just obliterating running back. So you look at this defense, all of a sudden, it's got a lot of talent again. Rami Raven, appreciate you. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New Year right back at you. I really appreciate seeing you in the chat. That is awesome. And Simply Nasty Nate and Heather. So proud of Nate. He really has a breakout season. We can make a case for DPOY for Marlon and Hamilton. So true. I mean, Marlon's is stat driven. When you talk about the interceptions he's had and then the impact. I mean, that interception against the Steelers, Heather, is like iconic. Play it when you're going to play that when Marlon's inducted into the Ravens Hall of Fame. That might be the first clip they show on the scoreboard. Just pretty much ended the game, holding the ball out. It was just awesome. And then Kyle, everybody knows how great of a player he is. But just think about this from Kyle's perspective. When he came in as a rookie, he was supposed to be a safety. The Ravens had injuries and had to play Kyle at nickel. So he's playing a position he had never played before in his first NFL season. And he does a great job at it. Next year, he did so well that they decided to keep him at nickel, but switch him between nickel and strong safety. And last year, he was an all-pro. This year, the Ravens have so many problems on the back end at the free safety. Who knows what's happening with Marcus Williams? There's got to be more to that story. I hope everything's okay in Marcus Williams' personal life. That's kind of what I'm thinking of at this point, because there's no way he should drop off and play that dramatically from one year to another. So it's just, it's just unmistakable. But yeah, you put Hamilton back there, and all of a sudden, free safety. All of a sudden, we're not giving up big plays, and our defense is number one since week 11. So Kyle Hamilton, I remember Tom Brady called Lamar the eraser because he erases all the offensive line's mistakes. Kyle Hamilton is that eraser on defense for the Ravens. I feel like if you put Kyle at edge rusher, he could probably get you dead sacks. Or if you put him at middle linebacker, he'd probably lead your team and have 150 tackles. Just an overall great football player. And it was excellent, Heather, to see him get that interception against the Houston Texans. He needed one. Kyle needed one. I do question Kyle's hands. I want Kyle to shut me up on that over the next couple of years. Show me a little bit of ball hawking. I know your teammates give you a hard time around it. I think Zay Flowers said you got hands like a snake, which I thought was a great quote. But Kyle, let's see you ball hawk it back there, man. If you're going to stay back there, we're going to need you to pull down a handful of interceptions a year, bait some quarterbacks, show that range. And, of course, just because he's listed where he is on this chart as the free safety in the deep half, they're still moving Kyle Hamilton up close to the line of scrimmage and letting him wreak some havoc. I think it's important for next year and in the future to get a safety like Ardarius has done this year where he can play the back half and play free safety too for those situations where you want to give a pre-snap look of too high, and then you bring Kyle Hamilton down in the box. So you need that other safety to be able to handle your traditional free safety duties as well. You can't just have a Jamal Adams, Bernard Pollard, glorified type linebacker playing the other safety spot. I think if you want to get the most out of Kyle, you better pair him with another safety who can do a little bit of everything so Kyle can do a little bit of everything. It's going to be important for the Ravens to address that in the future as long as Kyle is a Raven. So glad that he is. This defense just just excellent improvement over the season. I still don't think they are one of the best defenses in the NFL. I think from time to time they can get caught slipping, still allowing too much space over zone. I think their linebackers and the coverage, there's some coverage issues there. Brandon Stevens, obviously susceptible to some big plays, susceptible to get broken off in some intermediate plays. And then Trey White really hasn't been challenged a lot, other than that George Pickens game. But you put Trey White up against some quicker, smaller receivers, they could give him some problems too. So I don't think by any means this is a perfect defense. But with the offense that the Ravens have, this defense, to me, is more than good enough to make a run. Wanted to mention this Cleveland offensive line. If you guys remember, for those of you who have been football fans for, at least a few years, the Cleveland offensive line was considered their team's strength. Joel Bitonio, excellent player. Wyatt Teller, excellent player. Jack Conklin, excellent player. They had former first-round pick Jed Wills at left tackle. And Ethan Pokic at their center is a good player. But the thing that strikes me about this line is Bitonio, Teller, and Conklin, all three of those guys, they've kind of let get old together. And they don't really have a lot of depth there. So they're not as good of players. They're starting to show their age as they were 3 or 4 years ago when the Browns, were considered one of the best offensive lines in the league. Conklin's battled injury. I believe Teller was in and out with injury this year. So the Ravens should be able to get some pressure on the Browns. Running the ball has been a struggle, especially recently for the Browns, quite frankly, because their quarterbacks really aren't challenging anybody. So this has a chance. Maybe the Ravens can get that shutout that they technically did not get last week against the Houston Texans. Sure, it would be beautiful for them to get some redemption in that area. But yeah, the Browns, again, in case you missed it earlier, do not know who their quarterback's going to be. That's why you see DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, and Bailey Zappi both on the screen. And head coach Stefanski said that both could play. So there you have it, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. Really appreciate you guys for being here. He said, wish I had more for you on the matchups. I wish I could say, man, I'm really scared about this, or they could really beat us, or the Ravens have to do this to win this game, or we got to make sure we don't do this. One other point on this Browns team, they are last in the NFL with a minus 19 turnover differential. So when it comes to takeaways and giveaways, they are minus 19 on the season. That is dead last in the NFL. They have the second most turnovers. They've turned the ball over 31 times, and they only have taken the ball away with interceptions or fumble recoveries 12 times. That's 30th in the league. So second most turnovers, third to last takeaways. That adds up to a minus 19 differential. So the Browns don't take care of the ball either. Big game for the Ravens. Congrats to Simply. Anybody else that's going, get yourself some good pictures. I hope it's not too bad weather-wise after the game. I hope you can crowd the seating bowl at the bottom, get some good photos of the guys getting their hats and T-shirts. But, number one for me, I would almost say, obviously you got to win the game, but just stay healthy because this playoff run has a chance to be epic. If the Steelers don't win against the Bengals, the Steelers could come to Baltimore as the 6th seed opening week. Can you imagine a playoff run for the Ravens that started with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if they were able to win, going to the Buffalo Bills with the Josh Allen MVP conversation, and then if they were fortunate enough to win to go to Kansas City to try to avenge what happened last year and dethrone the 2-time champs, to get to the Super Bowl on that kind of run, that actually excites me. Now, I know some fans were like, well, we want the easiest possible matchups. And obviously, number one, I want the Ravens to win. But can you imagine a Super Bowl run that went through Pittsburgh, Buffalo, KC, just all the meaning behind that, the Steelers curse to the Bills put us out before in the MVP to the heartbreak at home against Kansas City last year. What an epic run that would be. And appreciate that. Thank you so much, Heather. Really appreciate your comments and you checking in tonight. So with that, I want to say Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks for everyone in the comments. Love y'all. I love my football family, and I thank my football family. And let's go get them, Ravens. Let's get that AFC North title. Next week, we'll be back with a playoff preview next Wednesday night. Love y'all. Have a good night.